On this particular episode, I wanted us to talk about the dangers that can derail your spiritual walk or journey if you are under a spiritual father who just interprets things haphazardly, anyhow, doesn't pretty much care how it affects you or anything, gives funny, weird prophecies that don't go anywhere. But I thought, you know what, let's go into that and let's talk about how it can derail you. But I'm not just going to talk about how, I'm going to give a practical example by myself. I'm going to talk about 2 examples of things that happened in my life where a supposed spiritual father would have derailed me and I would have ended up doing something else except what I had actually intended to do, following the instruction of spiritual father so and so. But before we get into that particular episode, y'all know this video is sponsored by Main Reef. I have mentioned that they are the sponsor of this channel. Do check them out on the number that you see reflected over here. If you're looking for a car, they can help you out in that particular space. You are just new to getting into vehicles. Text them. They got over 300 cars that they actually do offer. Cars on cars, lanes and all that entire. Just thank you very much to Main Reef. Y'all are awesome. And so let's talk about this subject of how you can be derailed and the dangers of doing so. I stated I'm going to give 2 examples from my personal life. So I'm not just going to give an example by talking and like, oh, you know, this can happen. I'm going to give you an example of what happened in my life. Now, I've never mentioned who these people I'm talking about are because I don't think it's necessary. I kind of woke up to it when it was happening, so it didn't really affect me as much, okay? And so, first example happens around 2011-12. In 2011-12, I'm at this Bible school thingy. We are doing this Bible studies under this particular pastor, Mandem, was here at a college, and he would teach the Bible or he had classes just for people that are new to the faith, but he had these deep theological studies that he used to do. Now, that material I don't use. I have never used it. Because it's smart knowledge that it's not really theologically rooted. It's just ideas, like all this big word stuff. You know, that stuff. So I've never really used the material that the things that you hear me talk about here are things that I learned after I'd left them. And so I'll give you an example of one scenario that would have derailed me, and it's quite dangerous. You guys remember the importance of this is because I made a video last year on Zondo when he gave a prophecy instruction to a lady, and the lady left, refused the prophecy instruction. And when she did that, she then actually ended up finding herself in a better financial position, opposite to what she was being told to go into. And so that's an example of it. But in my personal life, 2011-12, I was in the school. And I used to notice that the man quotes a lot of studies from different people and stuff. So I got very interested. Like, he wouldn't quote directly, but he stated he read a lot. He had a huge library and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, I should probably get into reading myself. So in the school, there was a group of us. We used to borrow each other books, buy books, go up and down looking for, oh, I got a book from Miles Monroe, this topic. I got a book from so-and-so, this topic. And it's a really, really interesting one. And so we had this interest in studying or using a study material from outside. And we had gotten this interest because we were listening to him. And he was pretty consistent about, you know, reading is the way, whatnot, and the whole 9 jazz. So one day I left and I went to, there was a man who used to sell books. If you lived in Joburg around 2010, 11, 12, you know, there was a white man that sold books outside of Park Station. So I used to get a lot of Bible books stuff from him and stuff like that. Some I would even sell and stuff because, you know, Mandem had a Bible selling business. So there was this book I found one day. Like, when we bought other books, Miles Monroe, Joyce Meyers, Joel Osteen, whoever, he had no issues with it. I bought this book, and it was a Greek study book. Basically, what it did, it explained a little bit more into some of the Greek words that you find. It was like kind of like a glossary, but It was very neat made. It was small, compact, but it packed a lot of punch. I read a little bit of it, and I was like, "Yeah, this book is good." When I was still at the spot where I used to sell, like that, this book is good. It sounds good. So I never really got to read it because the same day I was going to class. So we had a class during the week. When I get to the class, he sees it. And so the other books, would talk about, oh man, I got this book and would be very excited about it. But now, this book, he looked at it and he was like, let me see that. So he picked it and he read, I think, a couple of lines or pages. He didn't finish a page. Maybe halfway a page or something, but he really got taken into it. That he read a little bit, and it's like, nah, you shouldn't read this. And he went off, and that was it. That was the last I ever saw of that book. Okay, I can't even tell you what the I can't even tell you what the book was talking about. I bought this book now. I didn't have the book because he thought I shouldn't read the book. Okay, fine. That's cool. But notice what that would have done. It discouraged my studying. It would have discouraged me going to find new books because now I needed the books to be validated by him before I could read it. This whole business of spiritual fathering. Spiritual fathering. So it was just a very weird one. He never gave me back the book, and it would have derailed my studies or interest in studies. As a matter of fact, I didn't really buy books much after that, but because I was like, okay, now, so which means I must have the book qualified by him before I actually read it and stuff. So it didn't, for me, notice what it did. It didn't make me think, no, he's wrong. I mean, like, the Holy Spirit would show me if the book is wrong, right? That's not what I thought. I thought it was right. Yeah, he has to validate it. But it just discouraged me from buying a book because I didn't have questions anymore. It stopped me having questions. Like when I see a book that was interesting, I was like, hey, would he read this? Now I'm thinking about him more than I want to read the book. And so that would have derailed my studies. Because in that period, I studied a lot of conspiracy stuff, I studied a lot of stuff, a lot of material out there, which is where most of my studies, like when I talk about worldly stuff and whatnot, that's where it came from. Because I studied a lot. But I only studied a lot because I left a year after that. Because now, later on, he started teaching some stuff that was not biblical. I was like, okay. Maybe he didn't want me to find something that taught contrary to what he would have been teaching. Maybe that would have been the reason for him stopping me from reading that book. But it discouraged me from buying books. So I went back into research and stuff. So I would have not been able to sit here and have a video every day. Come across a topic and I have a certain idea for the video and stuff like that. My mind would have stayed in a certain idea of Christianity without questions or none of that. And so that would have derailed me. Apologetics-wise, I would have not done apologetics. And I've stated before, he didn't approve like doing this. He thought we could talk about it in the class, but doing this was just completely something else. He was against social media in general. And so, Bazalan, that would have completely derailed me. If you watch the video that I spoke about, I don't know if it was Kumui or whatnot, when he restricted people from using social media. And now, I think about last year, they then said, yeah, people can now use social media and share their messages. And I'm like, you just derailed some people who could have been influencers in a positive way in that church. So thousands and thousands of people were convinced by these people because sometimes they claim to be hearing God about it. And they're lying. Not that they're mistaken. No, they're lying. See, you must be ashamed. When you are lying, at least have shame. So that we can see the shame. Okay, brother, at least he's lying with shame. But these people, they tell you these things straight face when they know they are not telling the truth. And so I hate that it would have derailed me. Some of them, they used to say Facebook is the devil. Oh, there's a demon that came out of Facebook. You remember those stupid videos that used to be very popular, 2011 and stuff like that, because Facebook was just becoming a thing. Yeah, I read an article and then a demon leapt out. And you're like, what are you talking? Nonsense. Nowadays, they don't do those things because they adjusted to show you that it's not just adjustment. You were lying. So that was one example of something that would have derailed me. I would have not sat here. I would not be sitting here right now because I would have followed the lines of what someone else was saying. Example number 2. Now, example number 2 is also another one where it's concerning that this person was giving me this advice. This happens late 2018 into 19 or so. And the pastor at this point suggested, Ricky, I hear the Lord telling me that, you're a video guy and I just lost my previous platform. And so he was like, yeah, the Lord is showing me that you're going to do this and do that. But the direction he was directing me was completely contrary to this. He said, no, this thing, just leave this thing. He's like that, leave this thing. And I'm listening to him and I'm like, dude, no joke. And no offense at all. But when it comes to what God has shown me about my life, and you're going to come and tell me that God is telling you something that's completely contrary? I've been battling through to thinking, is this even right? Is this even biblical? And so I go through years of study to say, the Bible does say that does say this is right. Why is this man them telling me different? And so that was the second scenario where I was now jolted back and I'm like, wait a minute, I was a bit taken back because he was saying something I didn't have to think about it. I knew he was not telling me the truth. Yeah, because by that time I was not there to get a word. In the dream, God showed me going to that church and helping them. And I went there, they needed help. So when I got there and I found that they actually needed help with that, I was very comfortable because I was like, oh, okay, God had showed me this. And then I get here and then this is what's happening. Like 2-3 days later, a friend of mine calls me, they have this thing that they need to get their media stuff, And so what I found quite interesting was that now all of a sudden he has a word. Une word, upast petty word. And when I get there, he doesn't just have a word. He tells me to get away from doing social media content. Don't do apologetics. Yeah, focus on your life. I still don't understand what that means. He used to say that a lot. Like, focus on your life. What does that mean? My life is service to people. They might not know me. They can talk at me in the comment section, whatnot. But my life is service to those people. And so when he told me, no, focus on your life, I was pretty confused by that. No lies. But now, look at how it would have derailed me from doing apologetics. Because he was telling me, leave social media, leave these things, and what. So, when you look at both these particular stories, I've detailed them very much well, a little bit last year or some 2022, I think. But on this one, I wanted to show you that this stuff has real life consequences. Like, it can completely take you to God knows where, because you're listening to someone without being prayerful about what the decision they're telling you to make. When someone tells you to make this decision, make this decision. And they claim, God showed me that. That's a huge responsibility. Sometimes they don't even care that you can be misled to a point where you are just completely. This stuff has hurtful effects. This stuff can harm people. This stuff can make people unstable financially and otherwise. Do they care? No. So I wanted to make this video so that we can remember that aspect of it. So that we can remember that there's things that people are being advised. Sometimes it has real life effects. There's someone who was told, don't marry that man. Sometimes they might be truthful. Sometimes they might be just guessing. And before you know it, that person sits up until 70 years. They sit till late 50s. And they are still sitting there, waiting for a husband. And you find that the person that they were told, maybe. We don't know. They don't know. We don't know. They are super guessing. You can see it within the decision that they make themselves. The stuff, we're not just, when you say, okay, that is a false prophecy, that stuff has real life effects, can affect someone one way or another. And I thought, let me make this video so that I can give an example of myself. Something that I've talked about some time ago here on this channel. But maybe someone doesn't understand how the real life effects of it would have derailed me. The first man would have made me never to question things. Actually, it did. For a period, I'd never bought any book. For a period, I never read, nothing. Because I think the dread of thinking about him having to approve the book first, maybe I'm reading stupid books. You know, you just kind of like stuck around the pastor that you agreed with, or the pastor that sounded like they agree with you or whatever. You know, when I left that church, I started asking real life apologetics questions like, how do I answer this person? How do I answer that person? What does this person believe? I ask questions about everything. But by that time, because I'm being put in a position where I can't just ask the question by myself, it would have dismissed the apologetics aspect of what you are seeing on this channel. And I thought it as it's necessary. Let me post it out, develop a conversation. And also, when people make a decision on some prophet's word, be careful, because that thing can derail you. But it's Ricky. What do I know? You decide for yourself. But ungazikhaleli. And then all of a sudden we sound like, we didn't care, we didn't warn you, or we didn't tell you. There's a decision that this person is telling you to make. Bazalani, I was talking to someone yesterday about some decisions that some pastor caused some people to make. And those people, they absolutely ruined he ruined them financially by certain decisions that he actually made them to do. Stuff has real life effect. I was told about more than 5 people that this pastor ruined. Ruined. I'm not talking about a person he took like a year's salary. No, I'm talking about a person who he went to their business, claimed he wanted collaboration, ruined their business, left them with huge debt, millions of rands worth of debt. He ruined their business. He diverted their finances into his personal account. And I hear that he might have cases coming up for him. You hear stories like this. You hear people that not only divert business funds, they claim collaboration and then they ruin Bazalan. It's crazy stuff. Some people have just never seen how sick people are out there. So some of these things, some of the spiritual fatherhood stuff, it's dangerous stuff. Like you see the things that Bushiri do. And you look at the spiritual sons that come there. Criminals, some of these kids. Pure dead criminals. Evil, wicked. Ruin people's lives. We're not supposed to ask questions. The decisions and supposed false prophecies that they're being given are derailing many. Only God knows how many people are ruined by it. But it's Ricky, all we can do is give a warning. People take it or not, it's up to them.